There is someone weaker than you that is winning right now. Why? Because they are more confident. They don't think twice about what they are saying. They do what they want, and the world buys it. You, on the other hand, hold back. You overthink things. You wait for the moment, the words, the feeling, and while you're waiting, someone else steals away what was yours. Confidence is not an attribute. It is a weapon. If you do not wield it, someone else will use it on you. Machiavelli understood that years ago the courageous get ahead, even if they are not skillful. The indecisive are left behind. Regardless of how intelligent they are, power does not rest with the best. It rests with the surest. This is a turning point, not for inspiration, not for comfort, but for control. You're going to see how to erase doubt, speak like a king, and walk like a man who's used to being obeyed. Observe carefully, because from this moment on, your weakness won't be tolerated, it will be replaced. You weren't born weak. You were conditioned that way, by repetition, by reward, by rules, trained to obey, trained to seek approval, trained to ask, is this okay? What's living inside you at the moment is not a man, it's a servant, conditioned to please, programmed to submit, a loyal dog who flinches at judgment and waits for permission. That voice inside your head, the one that hangs back, the one that thinks too much, the one that apologizes first before speaking, that's not you. That's the internal servant. Kill him or you will never be free. Machiavelli did not whisper, he barked. He did not wait to be heard. He acted, and others followed. He did not ask for power. He took it because he knew those that ask do not deserve. Your makeover begins with inversion. Expand every time you wish to shrink. Pause every time you wish to explain. Stare every time you wish to apologize. Toxic confidence doesn't result from feeling prepared. It results from behaving in ways the inner servant would never dare. Walk at a faster pace. Occupy space. Cease nodding. Cease softening your voice. Speak as if your words are choices, not suggestions. Confidence is not a state of mind. Confidence is an identity, and that identity is created in opposition, not to the world, but to the version of you that still wants to please. So your first rule, if it makes you small, kill it. A thought, a habit, a person, kill it. If it makes you hesitate, confront it. If it makes you weak, deny it. If it seeks to be liked, laugh at it. The world will instruct you to be nice, polite, and kind. But let me tell you the Machiavellian reality. Nice men are instruments. They're used, dropped, replaced. Powerful men are not nice. They're calculated, measured, controlled, precise. It begins by killing that small voice within you that pleads to be acknowledged. You don't require permission. You don't need approval. You only need one thing, the courage to become feared, not by everyone, but by your past self. Because when you slay the servant, the monarch comes to life. Strong men don't come with noise. They come with presence, not in their voice, but in their silence, their quietness, their look. You don't have to be recognized. You don't have to be popular. You just have to make the atmosphere change as soon as you step in. That's how a man walks when he owns the room. Not because someone has informed him so, but because he acts as if he always has. Machiavelli knew this in the royal courts. The rulers weren't necessarily the kings. Sometimes it was the guy sitting in the corner and only really saying something every once in a while, and when he did, the whole court listened. Silence is power. You believe speech makes you in charge. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. The man of little or no words is the danger, because nobody knows what he's thinking. When you enter a room, you don't seek permission. You don't look about for approval. You notice, you take it in. You allow the others to scramble to show themselves. While you're computing, your stance is louder than your words. You walk slowly, not because you're unsure, but because you have no reason to hurry. Predators don't run unless it's time to kill. Otherwise they wait, still poised. Most individuals don't even know how quickly they walk, how quickly they speak, how frequently they interrupt, because they're attempting to impress. because they're still under someone else's appraisal. But when you walk in as though you own the room, you don't speak to impress, you speak to determine. Each sentence holds finality. Each word rings like a conclusion. Individuals begin to hear differently. They don't dispute. Instead, they adjust themselves to you. When others talk, you wait. You allow them to go first. You allow them to show their hunger, their insecurity, their vulnerability. Because the first one to speak typically gives away what they fear. Once you have that knowledge, you can shape them to your will. You don't pursue energy, you create gravity. Because confidence at this level isn't being liked, it's about making other people doubt their own position simply because they're standing next to you. So, walk like you've already won, not with arrogance, but with the air of one who doesn't compete, because he's already picked himself. If they admire you, well; if they don't, better, because indifference to approval is the ultimate expression of power. If the room was not yours when you came in, by the time you exit, they'll remember it like it was, not because you insisted, but because you didn't need to. Words are not sounds, they're weapons. Most men talk as if they're seeking permission to be. You can identify them in seconds. The upward inflection at the end of every statement, the forced laughter, the constant, I think perhaps, I don't know. They talk as if they're sorry for occupying space. That's not speech, that's sabotage. Machiavelli understood the truth. Power isn't necessarily in what you say, but the manner in which you say it. When you speak as if you cannot be gainsaid, people don't dissect your words. They bow to the force of your conviction. This is the game. People aren't rational. They're emotional. They don't pursue truth. They pursue conviction. If you sound convinced, they figure you must be right. If you waver, they figure you're not worth hearing. So what is a Machiavellian tone like? It's a slow, measured, definitive one. You talk as if your words are not up for argument, as if every sentence is a pronouncement. You talk like a person who already assumes that you will be followed. It doesn't matter whether you're surrounded by experts. If you sound like a decision, they'll yield. That is the first principle. Sound like the end, and not the beginning. And here's what most will never share with you. You don't have to speak frequently in order to be respected. In fact, the more you speak, the more opportunities you get for others to decipher you, question you, or worst of all, cease to fear you. Speak less, mean more. When you do talk, cut out softness. No filler, no explanations, no apologies. Never use the phrase, "I'm just saying," "I could be wrong," "I don't know if this makes sense," but those are weasel words for wimps. Incinerate them. Mean what you say, and say it. Because silence, following a forceful statement, is potent. It challenges individuals to test you, and the majority will not. Why? Because they are too scared of what else you can say. Now get this. The tone of your voice is your real message. The words are the facade, but your tone, your tranquil, earthed, measured tone, tells individuals precisely where you are in the pecking order. You want to ascend? Bring down your pitch, slow down your tempo, take out the nervous tension, sound like a person who has nothing to prove and everything in hand, sound like a man who's already decided and demands the world to catch up. You don't win arguments by yelling louder, you win arguments by presenting yourself in a manner that causes people to believe your words aren't requests, they're verifiable facts. This is how exiles become kings, how generals become dictators, how rulers become monarchs. If someone argues with you, never defend, shift, don't argue, don't clarify, don't rationalize. Simply say, "I disagree," or better still, "That is incorrect," and then continue on. When you refuse to argue, you project something that is chilling, that your reality is non-negotiable. That's how you command a room without raising your voice. Confidence is not loudness, it's weight. It's the unseen gravity behind you. The expectation that when you speak, others ought to listen. When you speak, the room must feel it, not through noise, not through conceit, but through unyielding conviction. You're not attempting to be correct. You're speaking in the manner of someone who cannot be incorrect. You're not attempting to be heard. You're speaking in the manner of someone who doesn't care if you agree, because you will. Ultimately, that is power. From this point forward, it's how you speak, or you stay silent. Confidence, without control, is decoration. You can walk tall, speak well, move with authority, but if someone can still trigger you with a sentence, you are not powerful, you are exposed. This is where most men sabotage themselves. They excel at presence, they excel at speech, but their emotions are still everybody else's. A hint of disrespect, and they overreact. A compliment and they melt. A silence and they lose it. You are not free until you learn to master the war that can't be seen, the one in your own head. And that starts by rewiring your identity. Machiavelli understood this in the courts of power. He didn't fear enemies, he feared dependency, emotional or otherwise. He didn't trust affection, he trusted control. Because once people know what moves you, they know where to press. And once they know where to press, you're not dangerous anymore, you're manageable. And manageable men are discarded the moment they lose usefulness. So here's the change. You're no longer the man who reacts, and you're now the man who calculates. Someone insults you. You don't explain, you watch, you take data. What are they trying to get from you? What are they hiding behind the insult? Someone compliments you, you don't melt, you analyze. Why are they complimenting you now? What do they want? A person dismisses you. You don't freak out, you get colder still. Silence is your tool, not your vulnerability. This is what it's like to become psychologically inaccessible. Not unfeeling, but immovable. You sense everything, but you respond to nothing unless it's going to advance your agenda. When somebody tests you, you don't snap back, you display no outward discomfort. Why? Because your head isn't a public area, it is a fortress, and you control who comes in. That's how you cease to be manipulated. Most guys are so easily manipulated, it's hysterical. Tell them they're not good enough. Over-explain. Tell them they're incredible. Chase after you, pull back from them emotionally, and they'll beg to get you back. That is not power. That is programming. And until you crack the code, you will always be someone else's tool. So then, how do you rewire? You eliminate the need to be understood. That's the root virus. The need to explain yourself, to be noticed, to be validated. It's what makes you controllable. Destroy it. You don't exist to be understood. You exist to move the world around you, strategically, surgically, silently. You slay the fear of rejection, because the Machiavellian mind doesn't pursue acceptance. It dictates access. You don't want to be let in. You want other people to wonder what goes on when they aren't permitted near you. And you dispatch the habit of responding emotionally. Emotions exist, but are irrelevant until weaponized. You're mad, utilize it as fuel. You're offended, utilize it as leverage. You're disbelieved, utilize it as silence, and allow results to speak later. This is how dominant men are constructed. They don't become robots, they become inescapable. Because once you can't be swayed emotionally, they can only observe you move with precision and tremble at what you'll do next. Leave others to pursue peace and comprehension. You pursue clarity and command, because the world does not care about how you feel. It only reacts to what you project: certainty, direction, gravity. When your identity is unshakable, you're dangerous, not because you're violent, not because you're loud, but because you're unreachable. The individuals around you will attempt to. They'll test you, they'll compliment you, they'll dismiss you, they'll entice you, but nothing functions. You remain the same. Cold, calm, calculated. Over time, they cease trying to manipulate you because they comprehend something frightening. You are the single person that they cannot move. This is the last shift. Not attitude, not words, not looks, but identity. You are not defined by others anymore. You define the room. You define the ruse. You define the outcome. You don't have to be understood. You don't have to be accepted. You don't need anything from anyone, because now you belong to nobody, and that is what makes you untouchable. Rejection hurts like a wound to the weak, to the strong. It's a sign, a present, a message from the world that you were too available, too open, too hungry. Good. Now you know what has to be destroyed. Get this. Rejection is not personal. It's a position. Individuals reject what they feel they can do without. So if they rejected you, it's because they think they lost nothing. That's not a slap in your face. That's information. Now you know their position and your position, so you can now position yourself to counterattack later when they're vulnerable and you're bulletproof. Step 1. Never look affected. As soon as you display pain, they win. It's not even about them, it's about your legend. A Machiavellian mind doesn't freak out when the door closes. It chills the room. You weren't rejected. They were disqualified from reaching you. Rejection is only valid when you admit it, so you don't react, you evolve. Step 2. Pull back your presence like a weapon. What does one feel when something they've been taking for granted suddenly vanishes? You start to appreciate its weight, its worth. That's precisely what you do when rejected. Disappear. No reason, no dramatic goodbyes, just uncalculated absence. And while they ache with the lack, you construct. Machiavelli wrote, "Men should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries, but not for ones too severe. So don't hurt them, make them irrelevant. Make your silence louder than your words. Make them guess where you went, how far you've gone, and whether they ever had access to you at all." Step 3. Reframe the narrative. Rejection can only affect you if it appears that you were pursuing something. So rewrite the story, not to appease them, but to yourself. You weren't rejected. You chose yourself out of a game that was too small for you. You let them say no because you were studying their actions. You gave them one shot to demonstrate they possessed the insight, to see power. They flunked, and in flunking, they revealed to you everything you wanted to know. Now you disappear and evolve. Step 4. Turn rejection into control. This is where you triumph. Rejection is transparency. Most people operate in a haze, having no idea who admires them, who manipulates them, who intimidates them. But rejection severs the haze like a knife. Now you're aware of who's short-sighted. Now you have an idea where your power doesn't matter yet. So what do? You hone your edge, you sharpen your image, you maximize your value so loudly that the people who used to ignore you now need to justify themselves when they say your name. And the next time they return, they will. You don't even have to turn them down. You've already moved beyond their grasp. That's control. Silent, permanent, elegant. Step 5. Arm your response. The aim is never for revenge. Revenge is emotional. Machiavellian power is always measured. So you don't seek to get even with anybody. You allow time to do that for you. You only come back when your presence causes unease, when your success is so obvious they cannot help but notice, when the one who turned you away is now observing you, taking over the very place they assumed you didn't deserve. You remain silent. You provide no spite, no sarcasm, no ego. You provide a mere glance, or better yet, no glance. For now you're not seeking to be accepted, you're establishing the standard. Last word, rejection is not defeat. It's the test, the filter, the fire that teaches you what must be cold, what must be cut, and who must be left behind. So always recall this. You weren't rejected. You were redirected towards a version of you that doesn't ask twice, doesn't flinch, and doesn't wait to be chosen. Now go build quietly and come back as a force they can't deny, even if they try. You've been remolded, not inspired, not motivated, but reconstructed from the inside out. You dispatched self-doubt, not with affirmations, but with doing. You didn't wait to feel prepared. You mobilized, you acted, and you discovered that power isn't of the perfect, it's of the bold. You used rejection as fuel, no more seeking validation. Now you make others feel the price of losing you. You became rare, calculated, quiet, and they felt it. You ceased entering rooms in order to be accepted. Now you claim them through presence, stance, and precision. You no longer talk to be heard. You talk as if no one can afford to disagree. And more than anything, you rewired your identity. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer easily swayed. You've become unreachable, emotionally untouchable. They can't push your buttons. They can't entice you. They can't shake you because you belong to no one now, and that makes you unforgettable. That's what makes a legend. Not noise, not fame, strong silence, icy clarity, merciless consistency. You don't have to proclaim your change. They will sense it in your stride, in your voice, in your absence. You are the man people watch in silence. The man who once pursued, now pursued. The man who once questioned, now a decider. The man who no longer requires approval because he set the standard. So no, this was not about confidence. This was about command, mental, emotional, psychological. You are not here to get along. You are here to shift the pieces, to curve the room, to haunt their memory, even in silence, because legends do not beg, they do not explain. They are, and the world recasts itself around them. Last command, like this video. If you're finished running from subscribe, if you're ready to become the type of man they can't control, can't anticipate, and can never remember, because this isn't self-help, this is war, and you just became a weapon.